Hey guys, welcome back to your video notes. This is Unit 4, Part 2, where we'll be focusing on operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is just a type of learning that happens when a behavior is strengthened or diminished depending on whether it's reinforced or punished. It's another type of associative learning, as you guys saw in part 1 of your video notes. And we're just changing the probability of that behavior happening again. Operant organism, O. Operant refers to changing the organism's behavior, usually through voluntary behaviors. One of the most important concepts with operant conditioning is Edward Thorndike's law of effect, which simply just states that if you have a behavior and you follow it by a favorable consequence, that it's more likely to happen again. Or if you have a behavior and it's followed by unfavorable consequence, it becomes less likely, or strengthened or weakened. Then we have B.F. Skinner, who kind of elaborated on Edward Thorndike's work. He was the guy who actually coined operant conditioning, so I would highly suggest putting a star by naming operant conditioning. And he did a lot of research with pigeons. Pigeons are also a very smart bird that worked for behavioral control. And he focused a lot with shaping, which is just a procedure where we reinforce behavior that gets us closer and closer to that desired behavior, which we are going to do an experiment on that kind of in the beginning of this unit. So by the time you see this, we'll have already done the shaping thing, which you guys will go back to. But if you want someone to do something, you kind of give them guidance towards that. So if you play the hot cold game when you're a little kid, if they're closer to the object you want them to be by, you say, oh, you're hot, or you're hotter, or you're colder, you're colder. More B.F. Skinner, you guys can jot down these if you want. He believed he could shape anything. He was a big advocate that you need to shape people when they're younger, when they're pretty much a sponge and they learn everything, because then that will help them as they grow. And then we have Skinner's box. So in the 1930s, B.F. Skinner came up with this idea of this chamber that either contained some sort of bar or key that an animal could press or poke or prod, and it would get them some sort of treat, a food item, or water as a reinforcement. And I will show you guys Skinner's box in a digital format in a moment. But he would try to get certain animals to do a specific behavior, and if they did press it, then they would get that treat. So they would want to repeat it again and again and again. He also included other stimuli, like lights and sound, that would allow him to study behavior in a more controlled environment. And then as you guys look at this next slide, you see his food dispenser. You see where the lights and sound would be. You see the little lever that the rat would play or push. And that he's standing on an electric grid. So if he did something that he didn't want to do, then he would run from it. Here's a little cheat sheet. If you guys look at the top left, you have the behavior of turning your homework in on time. It's a positive reinforcement because the teacher will praise you, say, hey, good job, I'm really proud of you. So typically, you want to do that again. An example of negative reinforcement, you have a headache, you take aspirin, your headache goes away. So it's negative because it's going away. So then you'll want to do that again. So positive and negative reinforcement are different than positive and negative punishment because you want to reinforce those behaviors. Behavior, you don't clean up your room when your parents ask you to. Positive punishment, your parents yell at you for not cleaning up your room. So something's being added to something. You stop dawdling and clean up your room to avoid being nagged about it in the future. Your other behavior, you come home 2 hours after curfew. Your negative punishment, something's being taken away. You're grounded for 2 weeks. And then that behavior, you don't go showing up at your house 2 hours late again. Again, reinforcements, things that are rewarded or taken away, but both increase behavior. And there's your positive and negative reinforcement again. Positive, something's being added, like praise, or negative reinforcement, something's being removed. So your headache's being removed. Putting on gloves, the cold's being removed. Here's another example of positive versus negative reinforcement. You guys see both scenarios are the same: turning in homework late, waxing skis, and pressing buttons on the dashboard of your car. And how they both can increase behavior. So I hope you guys have another great day, and I will talk to you soon.